Hi everyone, welcome back to Fluffy Recap. We're so happy to have you here. Today, we're diving into a gripping story full of secrets, betrayals, and unexpected twists. Chloe is not just a movie about love and lies. It's a journey into temptation, trust, and the dangerous games we sometimes play without knowing the stakes. Stay with us until the end. You won't believe how it all unfolds. If you enjoy our recaps, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us create even more exciting content for you. Chloe works as a call girl, highly skilled in her profession, typically catering to wealthy and influential clients. She catches the attention of Dr. Catherine Stewart, who glares at her through a window. Catherine, a gynecologist by trade, believes there's no real mystery in intimacy, just the body's natural reactions. Her husband, David, works at a university, and after one of his lectures, a female student eyes him. She invites him to dinner with a group of students, but David declines. It's his birthday, and he has a plane to catch in an hour and a half. Catherine had planned a grand surprise party for David, inviting everyone she could think of. The plane had already landed 40 minutes earlier, and David was expected any moment. Meanwhile, their son Michael arrived home and quietly slipped into his room with his girlfriend. Suddenly, the phone rang. Right in front of the guests, Catherine learned that David had missed his flight and would be arriving later. It was already late at night. At that very moment, the same female student approached him. The celebration Catherine had worked so hard to arrange was ruined, but the girl Michael had brought over without permission stayed the night as if nothing unusual had happened. The next morning, David prepared for work and warned that he'd be home late again, supposedly because of a scientific council meeting. He chose to have breakfast at a cafe along the way. Meanwhile, the scantily clad guest once again showed up at their house, pretending she had just arrived, although she'd stayed over before. David had long been aware of her visits, while Catherine had overlooked them. At that moment, Catherine noticed a message pop up on David's phone. "Thanks for last night." At the dinner, David flirted with the waitress, and Frank openly made out with his companion. Feeling uncomfortable, Catherine excused herself to the restroom, where she loosened her hair. In the next stall, someone blew their nose and asked for toilet paper. Their hands brushed, and a pretty blonde named Chloe offered Catherine a hairpin. Catherine ignored the gesture and hurried back to the table. Meanwhile, Frank joked crudely about prostitutes, and Catherine began to suspect that Chloe might be one of them. In the car, Catherine asked David, "What did you think of the waitress?" David shrugged it off, claiming he was just being friendly. Catherine then brought up his missed flight, subtly trying to corner him with questions, but David denied any wrongdoing. Later, from her office window, Catherine watched as the same blonde regularly entered the nearby hotel after work. One day, Catherine went to the hotel's restaurant, where Chloe immediately sat down with her and offered to buy her a drink. Chloe explained that she rarely dated women and typically worked with couples. But Catherine wasn't interested in herself. She wanted to hire Chloe to test her husband's loyalty. She needed to see how David would react. Catherine described David as a very handsome man and gave Chloe tips on where best to approach him. She advised Chloe to pretend she was a student. Chloe found David at a cafe and asked him for sugar. Their eyes met, and David smiled warmly. Meanwhile, Catherine withdrew cash to pay Chloe for her services, and Chloe began recounting what happened. After the sugar encounter, David approached Chloe and struck up a conversation, asking her name. But according to Chloe, he wasn't flirting, merely being friendly. Later, Chloe shared with Catherine some tricks she used to seduce her clients and confessed how happy she was to have met her. Catherine paid her again, asking for another test. Back at home, David was laughing and chatting on the phone, while Michael sat in his room, crying after being dumped by his girlfriend. Catherine peeked inside, but Michael slammed the door in her face. David eventually admitted to a brief affair with a student, insisting it was innocent. Catherine lamented losing her bond with her son, and David suggested they relax and share whiskey. They reminisced about the days when they were much closer, always attentive to each other. Now, work had consumed their lives. Catherine hoped for intimacy that night, but David was preoccupied with grading papers. Meanwhile, Chloe messaged, setting up another meeting. Catherine was already regretting her plan. She wished she could undo it all. But Chloe informed her that she had met David again. They had lunch together, and David, she claimed, devoured her with his gaze and tried to kiss her. After some hesitation, they found a hidden spot in a greenhouse and spent time together. Hearing this devastated Catherine. Chloe's job was simply to test David's fidelity, not to engage with him. As Catherine got up to leave, Chloe clumsily fell off her bike in front of her. While patching up her wound, Chloe apologized, and they ended up staying at the cafe into the evening. Chloe detailed everything that had happened with David in the greenhouse, even mentioning having to work with her hand. Determined to finish what she started, Catherine decided that Chloe needed to get tested for AIDS and other infections before proceeding. At home, Catherine stood in the shower, fantasizing about Chloe, letting the water run over her body. Elated, Chloe visited Catherine at work, instantly catching Michael's eye. They exchanged a few words, and Chloe, for some reason, followed him, introduced herself, and began flirting. Chloe left the room first, followed by Michael. Catherine prayed they hadn't talked about anything. Later, Chloe showed up again to tell Catherine that everything would go down that night after dinner. During breakfast with friends, Catherine couldn't think about anything else but her meeting with Chloe. She already knew it had happened in room 211 at the hotel. Her friends noticed her odd behavior, suspecting she had someone new. Driven by impulse, Catherine rushed to the hotel room. She found wrinkled sheets and a naked Chloe fresh out of the shower. Sitting down, Chloe began telling her story. David had met her in the park, rented a room, watched some news, and then suggested they move to the bed. Chloe recounted every detail, savoring how her words seemed to excite Catherine. But as the tale wrapped up, Catherine grew uneasy. She handed Chloe another envelope of cash, grabbed a glass with Chloe's lipstick mark, and took a sip. At the elevator, Catherine reflected sadly that she and David used to do everything together, but those days were long gone. She had been younger, more appealing then, and now she feared she no longer attracted him. Suddenly, Chloe remarked that David told her he had never cheated before, a comment that cut Catherine deeply. In an attempt to comfort her, Chloe kissed her. "I can't," Catherine whispered and fled. She made it just in time to Michael's piano recital, where David was already waiting. Afterward, Catherine caught him once again flirting with a waitress. The man even liked the lotion Catherine had used, Chloe's lotion. After the banquet, Catherine hurried to the hotel to retrieve Chloe from a client. In the room, she nervously tried to undress the blonde but hesitated. Chloe took the lead and gave her pleasure. Afterward, a cab drove the two women home. Chloe discovered where Catherine lived and later pulled out the same hairpin she had once offered. Despite Catherine's refusal, Chloe insisted it was a gift. It had belonged to her mother. Chloe pressed for further meetings, but Catherine was growing weary of the whole mess. Back home, David was waiting, seething with anger. Who was he demanded. David was convinced Catherine was cheating. Arguments flew both ways. He was accused of flirting with every woman he saw. Michael eventually stepped in to break up the fight. At work, Catherine was bombarded with missed calls, all from Chloe. She even emailed a photo of them naked in bed. It turned out Chloe had shown up at Catherine's clinic with flowers. Catherine praised Chloe, but said things had gone too far. She tried to buy her silence with a hefty check, but Chloe rejected it and stormed off. Still, Chloe didn't give up. She showed up at Michael's hockey rink, flirting with him and giving him a mixtape of his favorite songs. At home, Catherine heard a familiar melody and realized her son had been seeing Chloe too. At that moment, a text came in from Chloe. She claimed David felt guilty every time he touched Catherine. The words stung. Catherine arranged to meet Chloe at a cafe. Taking a drink for courage, Catherine sat down with a frustrated David. She pleaded for honesty, for them both to stop lying. David finally confessed he had lied about his birthday. He didn't want to feel old. He admitted sharing a drink with a coworker, but insisted he hadn't been unfaithful. Just then, Chloe walked into the cafe and approached the table. David didn't react. Chloe left silently. It became clear that much of what Chloe had told Catherine was fabricated. Still, Catherine and David had unresolved issues. David had faced temptations many times, but he had never crossed the line. Disheartened, he walked away. Outside, Catherine poured out everything about Chloe, her fantasies, and the way love had faded into mere friendship. In response, David kissed her passionately. Meanwhile, Chloe snuck into the Stewart home where Michael was staying. She boldly entered the parents' bedroom, found the gift hairpin, undressed, and tried seducing Michael. Catherine returned just in time to catch them in bed. She threw Michael out. Chloe became hysterical, insisting she couldn't just be discarded. She said she seduced Michael because he shared Catherine's eyes, that she could have been happy with him if not for Catherine. Michael rushed away to call for help. In a final, desperate act, Chloe wounded herself with a hairpin and pressed it against Catherine's neck, begging for a kiss. When she saw her son nearby, she pushed Chloe away. Chloe fell out the window to her death. Despite all the turmoil, the ordeal ultimately brought the family closer together. In memory of Chloe, Catherine now wears her hairpin. Thank you so much for watching till the end. We hope you enjoyed this story as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. If you have any thoughts about Chloe or want to share your opinion, feel free to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you and discuss it together. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our next exciting recaps. See you soon.